Hey guys, we're back this week with another episode of the BFG Podcast. This week is going to be a little bit different because we don't have Garrett with us. He's actually traveling right now. And so we're going to do an episode where instead of reviewing a movie and doing an opening segment with it like a top 10 or something like that, I'm going to be doing a personal WAP Master on Garrett since he's not here. I was curious if you were going to play the whole episode or if you were just going to hold it for a little bit.
Just thinking about it.
So do you want to confront last week or?
I think I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you have to say about last week's episode?
I feel like most of it is pretty fair.
Yeah.
You know, I thank you for the praise on the shooting part.
Yeah, of course.
Editing though, a 5. I literally edit this podcast. What do you mean?
I gave you so much praise on other parts.
Yeah, I do the editing.
Yes. Yes, you do.
So you immediately went from like from being like, oh, he's good at shooting, he's a good pal, and then being like, yeah, his face though,
yeah,
kind of thing.
Because this isn't the editing of the BFG podcast. This is how well you've edited yourself and your life.
That's not very fair. I can't do a whole lot about that. Jeez.
But until you start doing something about it, the scores are going to stay low. Maybe we can reevaluate you in a year or two.
Okay, that sounds fair. Yeah.
All right.
Another like yearly evaluation.
Yeah.
Like a grade.
Once you've upped your game a little bit.
Okay.
Not that I'm any better, but you know,
yeah.
This is my game to play. So
that's fair. I guess it is kind of your thing.
All right. So with that said, Garrett is back with us this week. And we're going to be talking, first of all, about our top 10 actresses. Mm-hmm. Once we talk about our top 10 actresses, we have 2 movies to talk about. You knew about Dear Evan Hansen, and we're also going to be talking about a new movie that went straight to Amazon Prime called Birds of Paradise. So with that said, would you like to start with your number 10 actress?
I would love to. My number 10 actress is Rosamund Pike.
Okay.
I think that she is extremely talented. And yeah, that's about it. I mean, like, this technical wise, she's a very good actress.
Yeah.
In a lot of thrillers, stuff like Gone Girl, stuff like what's that new movie that came out recently that she was in that was pretty popular on Netflix?
I don't know.
I don't remember, but she was good. And she's a very good actress. I love her stuff.
Yeah, and I feel like she's a little bit more versatile than some actresses. Some of them kind of get typecast. I know that. There's a little bit of a point of contention with you and Michelle Rodriguez, who I feel like is like very one note. Like, I think she plays that role really well, but she has one role and that's it. And if you don't want her playing that role, just don't worry about it.
Yeah, why would you cast Michelle Rodriguez then?
Like as a romantic lead or...
Yeah.
I kind of want to see that though. I'd like to see her go out of her box a little bit.
And not play like a rough and tumble cop chick?
Yeah.
No, that's never gonna happen. She's Michelle Rodriguez. She's made millions of dollars doing this. Why would you change it now?
Yeah.
I can't knock the hustle.
You said you haven't seen the original Alien, but you've seen Aliens.
I have seen the original Alien. I haven't seen Aliens.
Oh, okay. So I have the other way around. Yeah. There's a character in Aliens that I feel like is basically Michelle Rodriguez, but before she was born.
Or
I mean, maybe she was born. I don't know how old she is. But like it's basically every character that she does. And I feel like if she were a little bit older, she probably would have been that character in Aliens because it's exactly every role she is.
That's so annoying.
Yeah.
I hate that. Yeah. I really do.
But yeah, so your number 10 is Rosamund Pike. We kind of got off on a tangent there. My number 10 is Lily James.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I feel like she is good at kind of playing the romantic leads and stuff, and she needs to, you know, with movies like she did Cinderella for Disney, and
like that 2015 one.
Yeah.
Okay.
She also did Baby Driver, where she plays.
She's great in that.
Yeah. But I feel like she's also good at playing a little bit more of like a forceful lead when she needs to. Have you seen the second Mamma Mia?
I have not seen any of the Mamma Mias, actually.
She plays like the younger version of the lead in Mamma Mia 2, where she's a little bit more of... Like, I mean, it's not, you know, that much of a departure, but she's a leading character. And also in Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, which is not like an excellent movie, by any stretch of the imagination. But you know, she's good at playing like leading role types when she needs to, rather than just playing kind of like the romantic stereotype.
That's good.
But I feel like whatever she does, I've at least enjoyed her, if not the movie that she's in.
That's a very fair assessment.
Yeah.
So my number 9 is this is I'm French, and I do not know how to pronounce her name. Clemence Posey.
Oh, okay.
Posey.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. She was, in Harry Potter. She's in Bruges. In another movie recently. Was she in Tenet? I think she was in Tenet. Yeah, she was. And
yes,
she's always delivered a really good performance.
Yeah.
Each time. In more of her leading roles, like in Bruges and such, she's very charismatic in kind of like a mysterious way, and I kind of love that about her. She's not exactly what you'd expect to be a like a leading lady. She kind of looks a bit like Joanne Newsom.
Yeah.
And that's like, when you think of like a leading lady, you think more of like a Lily James, like a Angelina Jolie, but no, she's got this like really unique look, and she's still like able to get in these, like, I guess I'd consider her more of a character actor at this point.
Yeah.
But when she still exceeds very well in those high profile roles, or higher profile roles, I guess, like in Bruges is a very like super high profile movie, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
She's extremely talented. I love her stuff.
Okay. My number 9 is Thandiwe Newton, who I kind of fell for her way back when she did Holes.
Really?
I think it was her that did Holes, wasn't it?
Let me look up Holes.
I know that like the older, or no, I'm thinking of the wrong person. What was it she did? Anyway, recently she's done things like Reminiscence and Westworld, but she's been in the game for a long time, and I always like her role. She's a very good like leading lady, but not necessarily as like a romantic lead. I feel like she's a very good like dramatic lead.
Oh, like Clemence in that way.
Yeah, I see her more in roles kind of like Frances McDormand, rather than like as a romantic lead.
Yeah. And
I really like that. I feel like whenever she's able to hold up a movie, especially considering some of the people she stars against, especially in Reminiscence. Yeah. Like Reminiscence did you see it?
I have not, no.
It's kind of a mess. Like, it's really high concept. It wants to be kind of like the next Matrix, and it's not. But she plays against Hugh Jackman, and I feel like she was the standout, even against people like Hugh Jackman.
Wow.
And so I can't really say much more than that.
Yeah, no, that's really impressive. Yeah, I can't say I know the name very much. But you also reminded me of another actress that I kind of wish I put on the list now that I forgot about.
We'll do our honorable mentions in a little bit.
But my number 9 is, I'm gonna have like a lot of newer actresses on here because I feel like there's been a good rise in like indie actresses coming to the forefront, being in these like smaller films that like give amazing performances in. My number 9 is Florence Pugh.
Okay.
I think she is incredibly talented. She hasn't been in like a ton of stuff. She only started acting in like really higher profile movies recently. The first thing I saw her in was The Outlaw King with Chris Pine, and she was solid in that. And I didn't even realize it was her until like after I had already seen Midsommar and a bunch of other stuff, and then I went back and watched it. I was like, wait a second, Florence, you're here. But stuff like Midsommar, stuff like Little Women. She's especially in Little Women, I think she was the standout. Yeah, in that incredible cast, I think she stood out very well and gave a very thought-provoking, more heart-wrenching performance in that. And I love her. I think she's amazing.
Yeah, no, I think her rise to fame has been kind of astounding. Like just kind of. Because you could see her kind of like working her way in like smaller roles and stuff like that. Yeah. And then Midsommar came around, and it was just like, oh my gosh, like she can do like really, really effective like leading roles too. She doesn't have to just be resigned to being like the side character.
Oh no, not at all. No, she's very talented.
My number 8 is one that you probably won't know. It's Kate Siegel.
Kate Siegel, I know Kate Siegel.
You do know Kate Siegel. Okay.
Yeah.
So
I know that name.
she is the wife of Mike Flanagan. And they work
that's
together
how I know
on
the
everything.
name. I was looking at Hush like a couple days ago.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah, Kate Siegel, that's right. Because I knew that his wife was the lead.
Yeah.
So she was also the lead in Gerald's Game, wasn't she?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, not the lead. She was in Gerald's Game. She didn't play the lead.
Oh, okay.
The lead was Carla Gugino. Gugino?
Same thing.
Same person.
Yeah.
Just with different makeup.
Yeah.
But no, Kate Siegel, she came onto my radar with The Haunting of Hill House. Mm-hmm. And I was like, this is just everybody in there. Like, really, The Haunting of Hill House is just so well done. Like, I think they got the adult actors and the child actors really good in that show. And then I went back and realized that she was also in, like, Hush and Oculus. And that kind of blew my mind. Yeah. Because I realized
she was in Oculus?
Yeah. You like, I mean, was
she the mom?
She doesn't even play, like, the regular mom. She plays like the messed up version of the mom, if I remember right. She's the one like in all the makeup and stuff.
Oh, okay.
But she was in Oculus like briefly, and she's in Hush, and I had seen both of those before The Haunting of Hill House, but that's whenever she really like clicked for me. That like, oh, this is that person that.
Yeah.
And then she did Bly Manor.
And
she just did Midnight Mass. Yeah. And every time I see her, she's just so like just her acting is just immaculate to me.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that's holding her back to number 8, I think I would have put her higher, except she's another one that I feel like is kind of typecast. Not as like a scream queen necessarily. She doesn't inhabit horror films the way that like, Jamie Lee Curtis inhabits horror films. Yeah. But she's like a main player in a lot of horror stuff, but I haven't really seen her in anything outside of that. She does a lot of her work with Mike Flanagan, and I'd like to see her kind of in other styles of roles and stuff like that, to see her do more diverse things. But right now, at least in her wheelhouse, she's like a really, really good actress.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, good for Kate Siegel getting out there and getting on the list. So my number 8 is Marion Cotillard.
Okay.
I recently started watching Annette. I haven't finished it yet because it's really long, and like I got to one scene where it's like a lovemaking scene, and the entire time they're just saying like we love each other so much the entire time while they're just having sex, and I'm just like, all right, this is a little bit, a little bit in the face, for this. But she is always given like an amazing performance. There's a French movie called 2 Days, 1 Night that I have on Criterion that is incredible, and she is. Oh my God, she gives like such a sad, a beautiful performance in it as a mother and wife struggling to find a job and or to keep her job, sorry. And movies like Inception and a lot of other like big blockbuster films that you wouldn't expect like a French actress to be in, but they keep casting her in these like huge budget films. Yeah, and I'm very happy for her. I'm really impressed. And she's number 8. She's been amazing.
All right. My number 7 is Marissa Tomei.
I love Marissa Tomei.
And I feel like that's one she's gained by getting into the MCU. She's kind of gained that status that you don't really need to say too much about her. A lot of the actresses I've named are kind of getting more and more famous. But with the exception of maybe Thandue Newton, who was kind of past her prime and is making a comeback now, kind of a renaissance in her career. Yeah. But I feel like a lot of them, are bigger actresses. But I feel like Marissa Tomei is the one that, like, you just mentioned it, and it's like you kind of know exactly what to expect.
Yeah, every role feels like lived in for her. She always brings like a sort of naturalistic feeling.
Yeah,
to everything.
And that's the thing. I feel like even with a role as like Aunt May, where normally that would be delegated to someone who can just play like, the sweet aunt who cares about Peter Parker. She brings more to it than just kind of the stereotype. Yeah. And, that extends to her other roles too. All you have to do is watch The Wrestler to kind of see.
Oh my God, yeah.
to kind of see the breadth of her acting abilities, but yeah. So my number 7 is Marissa Tomei.
That's a good one. My number 7 is... Wait, your number 7? I thought that was your number 8.
No, my number 8 was Kate Siegel.
Oh wait, that's right. Rosamund Pike was actually number 11 for me. I forgot I put like an 11 for like a bonus one for her. so I've been off for a while.
Yeah, we're gonna be off by 1.
Yeah, that's okay. I guess you technically started then with the number 10. Yeah, I started with 11.
You started with 11.
Yeah. So I forgot I put Rosamund Pike on there. I was like, well, I can't leave her out.
You can do an extra one before we do our honorable mentions.
Yeah,
how about
there we go. Yeah. But yeah. So my number 7 then is Rachel Weisz.
Mm-hmm.
I think that she kind of brings a bit of a classy feel to a lot of movies that she's in. She has like this tendency to, you know, bring forth like what feels like somewhat of a regal feel with her, even in movies where she's trying to like, you know, be more like human in a way, like
the
more
Mummy.
like the Mummy.
That's kind of like the signature thing, you know. It's like when I think of Rachel Weisz, I think of like the fun playfulness of the Mummy, as opposed to some of the other roles she's done, like the Fountain, you know.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna bring up. I was gonna bring up how she's trying to like be a more like, you know, a more ordinary person in that, but she kind of comes off like a bit of aloof in it. But I think that's like her. I think that's Darren Aronofsky's writing in that.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, she is a very like, she's very, how do I put this? I struggle describing acting in any way. She's charming, but in kind of like a quirky, kind of like Mean Girls kind of way. Yeah. You know, like in when I generally think of her, I think of The Favorite most of the time. Yeah. Oh my God. Most of the time, because she gives like a hell of a performance in that. Didn't she win an Oscar for that? I know she was nominated. So, yeah. And I know that what's her name also won. Olivia Colman. No, Emma Stone didn't win that. Olivia Colman won. But yeah, amazing actress. Has like a lot of like really great roles, but also a few duds in there randomly that kind of pop up, but still like so incredible. Yeah. And I think everyone should like take note of her abilities.
My number 6 is Audrey Hepburn, who has, I mean,
nerd. Old movies, nerd.
Yeah. And this is kind of like one of my big like, I looked at a lot of like classic actresses, as far as like Katharine Hepburn, Greta Garbo, and a lot of them I removed, but the one that I had to put on there and leave on there was Audrey Hepburn, not just for her acting abilities, but also just kind of for the legacy she left behind afterward. You know, for everything from like Breakfast at Tiffany's to Charade, which I keep telling you to watch Charade because that's like one of my favorite movies. And that's got Audrey Hepburn in it as well.
You would have to strap me down and waterboard me and put me in a comatose state to get me to actually watch that old thing.
But I feel like she was very good at playing very different roles, kind of like Rachel Weisz, I feel like. Yeah. She was very good at playing very different roles while at the same time retaining almost this like regal atmosphere and status. Even when she's making, you know, like in My Fair Lady, it's about this girl who's just like selling flowers with this Cockney accent, and they try to make like a proper lady out of her. And then with movies like what's the name of it? There's a movie, it's something like After Dark or Don't Look Now or something like that. She plays a blind woman, and even there it's real. I don't know why you're laughing.
I'm not laughing because she's blind. I'm laughing at like an old movie kind of interpretation of it where they're just walking around like, oh no, you know, like super tone deaf with it.
Yeah, but I feel like whatever role she decides to take on or took on, she was able to do it effectively, but also while retaining something like that was signature to her that a lot of other actresses weren't able to capture. Yeah.
That's funny. My girlfriend's favorite celebrity is Audrey Hepburn. Okay. So, you know, she likes her a lot. She like some sort of dance thing where she dressed up as Audrey Hepburn. I don't remember. But yeah, she can sing Moon River pretty good. I'll give you that. All right. That's it.
Okay.
Nothing else.
I'll take what I can get.
Yeah, you better.
Okay.
Number 6, Sercia Ronan. She's had like a crazy high rise over the past few years. She was in a few like teen dystopian kind of not very good movies in like the early 2010s. After being in like Atonement, which is a great movie.
Yeah.
In like 2007, I think. And then going into like something like The Host in early 2010s. And then once you get to like the midway point of the 2010s onward, she's just been in these high profile, like high praise films.
Yeah.
Like Little Women, like Lady Bird, a lot of Greta Gerwig stuff. It's like a lot more, but I'm like blanking on it. But she's been in like so many great films that are like more indie-ish, that like you wouldn't expect someone to be getting such high profile praise from them constantly.
Yeah.
And she plays like the ordinary like American girl so well, even though she's Irish. And I really appreciate that she's able to pull that off. I love Sercia Ronan. I think she's incredible.
Okay. My number 5 is another just kind of like personal nerd out. I know that in the grand scheme of things, she probably wouldn't make a lot of people's like best actress lists. But for me, all of her movies work, and I love her acting in them. Is Samara Weaving.
Oh, I was gonna put Samara Weaving on mine. Yeah.
Yes. I'm glad I'm not the only one that thought that.
No, I love Samara Weaving.
But you know, it's just I feel like she makes a lot of movies that just really appeal to me. Whether it be Ready or Not, all the way to like Guns Akimbo. It's just she makes these like really bonkers films that just really appeal to me, and I really enjoy the movies themselves, but also her role in them. I feel like she's really effective at portraying these kind of more like I guess like badass characters, but still kind of not in the same way that like, you know, Michelle Rodriguez gets stereotyped.
No,
like she's much more versatile,
unwilling.
but yeah. But she still kind of takes on these like more formidable roles. Yeah. And I feel like that's a lot of credit to her right there.
Oh yeah. She was put on the map for me by her role in Ready or Not.
Yeah.
Like that movie surprised me so much. I watched it on a plane at first. I didn't like it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'll give it another shot. I watched it again and I was like, oh my God, it's so fun. And
I know you were saying
the ending I hated.
Yeah.
But like I absolutely love Samara Weaving in it. I think she is incredible in that movie. Like, it's amazing how much she's able to pull off there.
No, she's my number 5.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go on to my number 5, which is Viola Davis.
Okay.
I think Viola Davis is like one of the best. I'm not sure if she is classically trained, but she feels like she is classically trained actresses out there. Fences by Denzel Washington. I did not like that movie, but I thought Viola Davis was incredible in that.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad she won an Oscar for that. Because oh my God, she blew everyone else out of the water in that. And even roles in like terrible movies like Suicide Squad, like you know, she's still the best part. She's always able to bring like a level of consistency that a lot of people, you know, overlook, I feel. And she, maybe not the Academy because they gave her an Oscar, but you know, she's always been incredible, and I absolutely love her kind of subtle but still strong personality that she carries behind her. And she's just she's a heck of an artist. Yeah, absolutely love it.
So continuing my streak of kind of like formidable, like tough leading ladies, my number 4 is Sigourney Weaver.
I love Sigourney Weaver.
Yeah. Mostly just because of the Alien movies. I've got a soft spot for the Alien movies, but even beyond that, you know, when you think of kind of the scale of things that she's done, from like Galaxy Quest to her like cameo in Paul, she's not scared to take on these like weird roles that kind of either complement her more like tough leading lady persona, or almost like lampoon her tough leading lady persona.
She was originally on Broadway too.
Yeah. No, and I feel like she's just really effective at whatever she's in.
Oh yeah, when she came into what was the movie Cabin in the Woods, I was so excited. I was like, no way, Sigourney, what are you doing here?
And that's all it takes now. You know, she's reached this like kind of
mythical status.
Yeah, this kind of like cult level where she can just pop up as like a cameo in a movie like that, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, it's Sigourney Weaver.
Yeah.
Now the movie's way better. Even if she's there for like 5 minutes making a gag about, you know, being in this movie.
Yeah.
That's all it takes.
Oh man. I absolutely love Sigourney Weaver. My number 4 is Toni Collette.
Okay.
Oh my god, Toni Collette. Every role that she's in is a tour de force.
Yeah.
Oh man, I didn't even really start noticing how amazing she was until Hereditary.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone was like, Toni Collette's so amazing in it. And I watched it, I was like, oh my god, she is. And I was like, wait a second, she's been in all these movies, like The Sixth Sense, like Little Miss Sunshine, and all that. And like, she's always amazing. I have not seen a bad Toni Collette performance.
Yeah.
Like, the lady can act her ass off.
Well, and I think it's almost like deceptive because she's in these movies and you don't really notice how good it is, but you know, it's like she's the most genuine part of the movie she's in, almost to the point that it becomes just natural. You don't think about it.
Yeah, it's so weird to just see someone go into every single movie and it'll be like a completely different role from the last thing you saw her in, and still just like hit it out of the park each time.
Yeah.
And she consistently does that. I haven't seen Velvet Buzzsaw. It doesn't really seem like something I'm like super into. Well, Tyra loves it, but you know, it doesn't really seem like my thing. But from what I've seen, she looks amazing in that too. Like any random thing, she'll just be like, yeah, I'll do it, and then just and just whoop ass when she's in there. Yeah, it's awesome.
No, yeah, I agree. I started saying like I should say something about Velvet Buzzsaw, and then I was like, no, I probably shouldn't. I'll just leave that alone. We'll move on. That's another topic for another time. Yeah. My number 3 is Katya Herbers, who I only know her from 2 things, and I am just endlessly impressed. To the point that I went out of my way and subscribed to a month for like a different streaming service just to keep up with one of her shows. Yeah. Even though I think it was like Apple TV or Paramount Plus. It was something. Her show had gotten moved. She's in Evil, and she's in a new horror movie called The Columnist, which is not a great horror movie, but she's so good in it. And she's done other stuff too. She was in I pulled it up quick so that I could remember. She is German and Dutch by descent, and so she's done a lot more like in other countries, like foreign language films that I haven't seen, but at least here she's done The Columnist and Evil. She also is in Westworld. She was in The Leftovers for a while. She did The Americans. So she's got like a lot of kind of like TV show style roles. Yeah. But she is just such a good actress. She's another one of those that I feel like she can take a lead and just kind of elevate it. Kind of to the same status, you know, we were talking about people like Rosamund Pike and Toni Collette, and I feel like she's kind of on that level where it's like she can take this mundane role or just like a regular leading role that should be a little bit generic, and she's what makes the show interesting. Because with a show like Evil, I don't think I would watch Evil except I really like Katya Herbers and what she brings to that role. And so she snagged my number 3 spot.
Man, that's great. Never heard of her. Probably isn't that good then, huh?
Probably
not. No, she sounds amazing. My number 3 is Tilda Swinton. Okay. Absolutely love Tilda Swinton. She's in so many movies, so many different movies that you kind of like. It's kind of hard to keep track of her career. Yeah. But she was in some movie in like the early 2010s that she was incredible in. She was playing like the lead, and she's a total mess, but she's amazing in it. And but then she'll like turn around and be in like a Marvel movie. Yeah. And like she's still good in that. You know, I don't like Marvel movies, but yeah, she's good in that. And like, you know, the weirdest things like Snowpiercer. Like what? She's in Snowpiercer. She'll go and be playing like 6 different characters in the Suspiria remake. Yeah. Like she's like a tour de force. Yeah. Like all
and
the
she's
time.
just fearless.
Oh,
Like
absolutely.
she'll take on any of these roles, and she's another one where it's like, regardless of the role she's taking on, she can make that role good.
Yeah, she literally plays a man in an old man in Suspiria,
And does
she
it
does
so
amazing.
well.
Yeah, she's great. I didn't even notice it was her until I looked up the IMDb. I was like, what?
I was
Tilda?
able. So I was. I knew beforehand that it was Tilda Swinton playing all these different roles.
Yeah.
And I kind of had I could tell there was something off. You can tell that it's not
It was
like
maybe
really.
the voice for me.
Yeah, there's something that's not quite right about maybe the prosthetics and the voice and stuff like that tip you off that it's not actually just an old gentleman actor.
Yeah.
But you can't tell that it's Tilda Swinton. Like, it's done so well, and she disguises her voice and her persona, her mannerisms, all this so well that you can't tell that it's her. But watching the movie, there's something off enough about the character that you also feel like there's going to be something revealed about him later on, too.
Yeah. Man, like it's well, also goes to like a testament of how like well the filmmaking is in the Suspiria remake, and how like on edge it keeps you with all of it.
Yeah.
But Tony, I almost said Toni Collette again. Tilda Swinton, incredible, absolutely beautiful actress.
Just as kind of like a little aside about Suspiria, after I saw it, I was immediately texting one of our mutual friends, Logan, and I was like, "You need to watch Suspiria." And I was telling him there's a scene in Suspiria that even to today sticks with me. The scene where they're controlling the dance, the girl dancing, like that scene just kind of like churns my stomach. Like that and Gerald's Game, I feel like are the two. Those are the two movies that have scenes that I just still can't stomach to this day. And I was like, this is such like an effective blend of just like surreal and horror. And I was like, if you want to just kind of have your will tested, the new Suspiria is it's a tough movie to get through sometimes, but it's so well done.
Man, that's it's a great movie. Really surprised by like how much they were able to pull off with that. Being a remake. It's so different from the original too. Yeah, especially color wise.
Yeah. No, they completely, because that's one thing that was so effective about the Giallo horror of the time was these like really strong color palettes, and Suspiria I think originally kind of capped that. That was like the masterpiece of its day. Yeah. And the fact that they were able to change it so significantly and still make it such an effective film too is a testament to how well that movie was done.
Oh yeah, incredible movie. Go on to your number two.
My number two is Frances McDormand.
Good one.
Who I was curious if she would make your list or not, but I mean,
not this time, no.
She's one. I feel like she should have a whole lot of pull, like in the Hollywood industry and stuff. Yeah. And she's always kind of flown under the radar a little bit. Not with the Academy necessarily. They still love her and appreciate her. Yeah. But I feel like she's not a household name the way she should be with just her acting ability and how effectively she brings these roles to life. Whether it be, Fargo or Burn After Reading or
those are the two
Three
movies
Billboards.
I was thinking of it immediately was Fargo and Burn After Reading.
Yeah. But I mean, when you think about it too, you think about the kind of like, I mean, she's smarter than she lets on, but that kind of like simpleton police officer role. And then you go into this like doofy like Burn After Reading role.
Oh my god, that movie's amazing.
Coming off of those and then making something like Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri.
She's so strong in that.
Yeah. And it's like again
flawed and like hurt.
The way that she's able to bounce between these different styles, not just like different kinds of roles. We were talking about some people can take like dramatic roles as well as romantic roles and so on and so forth. And hers are like complete 180s. She's another kind of like Tilda Swinton, where she can take on like any kind of role and make it her own in a way that just a lot of people can't.
Oh yeah, and like especially in a role like the one in Three Billboards, it's such a complex role. Yeah, because like she's got all these external factors pulling her in certain ways. The death of her was it her daughter in it? Mm-hmm. Yeah, like really harming her, the separation with her husband and everything. Yeah, and then her natural strong personality and wanting to like get back out there and go back in the dating scene and everything, but still like looking for this revenge. It's so much to to capture in one person.
Yeah.
Yet she's still able to pull it off perfectly, and
Yeah.
thank God she got the Oscar for it. She really deserved it there.
Mhm.
That was incredible.
So I've talked to people about Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, and I think the title throws a lot of people off. It's a very long title, and it's not a super interesting title. And a lot of people are kind of turned off by that. And so that one especially flew under the radar for a lot of people just because they had a certain idea of what it was going to be in their heads just based on the title and the poster.
Yeah.
But if you get a chance, you need to see Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. That's such a good movie.
You should also check out more of Martin McDonagh's, I think his name is Martin McDonagh, the director's, other films like Seven Psychopaths and In Bruges and stuff.
Yeah.
He's incredible.
He's really good, and also her other frequent collaborator, the Coen brothers.
Yeah,
they make really good stuff, and I think they're a little bit more in the mainstream.
That, yeah.
The Coen brothers are, but if you haven't seen movies like Burn After Reading and
do some
Fargo,
of their, like, deeper cuts.
Yeah, they're so good. Like the Coen brothers deserve a deeper dive than some people give them credit for.
We'd love to do a Coen brothers retrospective. I was thinking, because I was thinking about the new Ethan Coen movie that's coming out. I think it's an Ethan Coen one.
Yeah, just
Coen.
him.
Yeah. But I was thinking about that. I was thinking like, we should we should do a retrospective on the Coen brothers.
Yeah.
And I was like thinking about how many movies they've done. I was like, oh my god.
Maybe when maybe we can do that as like a special thing instead of doing like a top 10. Maybe we can do like our ranking of the Coen brothers whenever his movie comes out or something.
That sounds good. Yeah.
All right. So you're number 2.
My number 2 is Rooney Mara. She used to be my favorite actress for a long time.
I thought she was going to be your number 1. Now I'm curious.
She was my favorite for like a really long time because I think that like whenever she's a lot of people complain about her being like a little drab, kind of like Kristen Stewart-ish, where she doesn't bring like a lot of emotion and stuff like that to roles, and I can totally see that. But then I think of roles like her time in Her, and her role in Ain't Them Bodies Saints, and a few more films that I'm on the spot. I'm always I like to think that I have like a really good knowledge of like films and when they came out and who was in them and all that. And then like whenever I'm on the spot, I'm like, dang it, what was it? But she's had a lot of like really Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, Social Network, stuff like that. Incredible. Especially the Nightmare on Elm Street remake. Yeah, my favorite. Oh, just kidding. That was awful, Tyler.
but she was a good part of it.
No, I don't think so. Not even. I don't think anything was a good part of that movie. Not even Jackie Earle Haley.
I didn't mind his performance. Again, the movie as a whole was not good. Yeah. I thought some of the acting in it was fine. I thought the choices like leading up to it, I was like, okay, I could see this being promising. When they announced that it was going to be Jackie Earle Haley instead of Robert Englund, I was like, okay, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
The final product was not good, but I feel like some of the actors deserve credit for at least doing what they could in those roles.
I think they were doing what they could, but I also think that this is where her reputation of being kind of like deadpan, kind of comes and turns on her, or like shows its head more.
I can see that
because like here it feels like it makes sense for her to be so like tired and just like absolutely dead most of the time. Yeah. But it doesn't bring any interesting stuff to me. It bores me more than anything. Yeah. And but then I think like again, people have that reputation with her, but then she's in all these movies where it's a lot of it is like more bit roles and not like leading lady things. Yeah. But even in those bit roles and those tiny moments in Her, whenever she's on there, I'm just like, oh my god, yes, more Rooney Mara. Oh, she's like such a she encapsulates such a beautiful feeling when he's like reminiscing on the good moments, and then once they get to the divorce time and all that, then it's like she's filled with this anger and she's dreadful. Like it's you feel dread when you see her. Yeah. And it's like, oh my god, like her testament to also Spike Jonze, but like it flips so well with her demeanor in that film, and I think that like really shows a lot of her skill as an actress, and I love her in there, and I also love her name, Rooney Mara. That's a really fun name. Yeah.
All right, so with our number 2s out of the way, do you want to do some honorable mentions?
I would love to.
Okay.
So I would like to Lupita. Where's Lupita? That's the one I forgot. Was Lupita. Lupita Nyong'o. Yeah, that's right. She's incredible. Absolutely love Lupita Nyong'o. I can't believe I forgot her because she would have made the list.
And another pretty versatile one. Like, being able to jump around in roles to kind of retrofit whatever she needs is really good.
Yeah.
One of those movies that the movie, again, kind of like I felt about Nightmare on Elm Street, where the movie's just really dumb.
She is on here. That's right. I just forgot to put her on the list.
But the movie's really dumb, but I really liked her role in it, is Little Monsters. Have you heard of that one?
I can't say I have.
So it's about, she plays a elementary school teacher who they take their kids on a field trip, and then the kids become zombies. And it's like her and Josh Gad and somebody else. But anyway, it's like them trying to survive a zombie apocalypse. And she's like an elementary school teacher, like also trying to protect and save her little precious darlings.
Yeah.
And it's this really just like goofy off the wall comedy that doesn't work about 75% of the time. But I really liked her in it.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, so I got like a couple of honorable mentions. Anne Hathaway, she's my lookalike. I look just like Anne Hathaway. Tilda, no, she's on there. Sissy Spacek, Jennifer Connelly, Maggie Smith, Fiona Dorff, Brad Dourif's daughter. She gives a lot of really good performances, but she's in like way smaller movies. She was in Tenet for a bit. She was in like a very small role, but she was there.
I'll have to look her up. Maybe if I see her face, I'll know her from like bit roles and stuff.
Maybe. Laura Dern, Samara Weaving, Thomasin McKenzie, Scarlett Johansson, Emma Stone. I know you love Emma Stone. Amy Ryan, Greta Gerwig. You know, Rachel McAdams. She almost made this. Rachel McAdams almost made it.
You named a lot of them. The few that
maybe if you say Michelle Rodriguez.
It's only Michelle Rodriguez. She's the only one on my honorable mentions.
She's number 11.
Yeah.
Number 10 and a half.
No, my few honorable mentions were Alicia Vikander, Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
Oh yeah.
Margot Robbie, Natalie Portman, and Sophia Boutella.
Oh wow, that's a good one.
Yeah.
I like those.
All right, so do you want me to do my number one, or would you like to go first?
Sure, go ahead.
All right, my number one is Victoria Pedretti, who, again, I know primarily from Mike Flanagan's work.
Yeah.
She came onto my radar in Hill House and then did Bly Manor, and now she is in You, the Netflix series. I don't know if you're familiar with it. But
yeah, that looks awful.
She is one of I feel like she brings kind of like a nuance to the characters that she's played in a way that I just don't often see. That like I was immediately just kind of drawn to her. In her role in Hill House and Bly Manor.
Oh wow.
Like watching her and what she did just kind of astounded me. And I haven't watched You. I kind of fell into that same boat where I saw it and I was like, at first I saw the description and it was some like generic description about like, a serial killer tries to live a normal life or something like that. Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I saw like the little trailer that Netflix pops up and I was like, oh, okay. And I kind of turned away from it, but I started considering watching it because I found out that Victoria Pedretti was in it. Like that's just kind of the pull she has for me. Kind of like with Katya Herbers. And there's something just about the effectiveness of the way she inhabits these roles that's like magnetic to me. Yeah. And I haven't seen her in a lot, but she just immediately flew up to the top of my list.
Yeah.
The more I watch, just the more I fall in love with her performances. She's so good at what she does.
Yeah. Man, that's like, I didn't even consider her, nor did I really know who she was. She played Lulu in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Yeah. Which is cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, she only started acting back in like 2014, I think. Which is insane. She's able to get like really far into the industry that quick. All from Haunting in Hill House, it looks like. But yeah, awesome. So my number one, the better number one, is Natalie Portman.
She made my honorable mentions.
Yeah, that's not good enough.
Okay.
But yeah, so Natalie Portman, she's someone that for some reason she was probably in my top 10. I never made a comprehensive list until now. But for some reason, I didn't really think of her as number one. even though anytime as a kid or growing up, and even still now when I see her in things, I'm like, Natalie Portman, whoa.
Yeah.
I get like excited. And even in like her super early roles, when I first watched Leanne the Professional, I was so amazed by how incredible she was at such a young age. It's like, whoa, what are you doing, Natalie? How do you pull that off at like, well, what was she, like 13 maybe?
Yeah.
But that was insane. And then like, again, of course, my favorite movie, Black Swan. The fact that she's so dedicated that she goes to like, I think she said it was like a year and a half of ballet training. And I think like 6 months of like intensive ballet training.
Yeah.
Where it's like 6 days a week for hours. She's just constantly like out there doing this like super draining sport. And she's able to, you know, bring out like a beautiful performance in like these roles that she really cares about in movies like Annihilation, which I don't really like Annihilation, but I think she's great in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I haven't seen Lucy in the Sky. It looks awful, but I'm sure that she's a good part in it. But yeah, like I absolutely love Natalie.
Yeah. No, she made my honorable mentions, not my top 10, but yeah, no, she's become such like an integral part of like the Hollywood
like the
industry right
zeitgeist.
now. Yeah. That, you know, it's hard to know films at all without knowing her from anything, you know, like you were saying, movies like The Professional and movies that kind of flew under the radar, especially with kind of like the weird conflicted release of Annihilation, all the way up to Star Wars. Yeah. You know, it's like it's hard to not know who she is at this point.
Yeah, she's able to go through like these huge franchises and also bounce back with like a great smaller budget indie film and give an amazing performance in both of them. And it doesn't like it's insane. She's so supremely talented.
All right, so that was our top 10 actresses. Shall we delve now into Dear Evan Hansen?
I think we shall.
All right. So moving into Dear Evan Hansen, we're going to score it the same way we score all of our movies, using our custom Wapmaster score. That's Wapmaster with a D. We break it down into 10 domains and discuss each aspect of the film before giving it a final ranking based on all 10 of those categories. First up in Wapmaster is W. That stands for writing. Is the film well written, clever, and cohesive? Are there plot holes, cringeworthy dialogue, or unmotivated moments just to squeeze in a gag or a sexual encounter? So for writing, I gave it a 6. I think that the new dialogue and the screenplay just make it worse instead of enhancing it. They cut some of the most important songs, and especially the moment where Alana and Evan are comparing drugs it didn't work for me at all. It just kind of annoyed me.
Stupid scene.
And we had discussed briefly about how they had removed one of the most scalding songs where he has to deal with the consequences of his actions, but then also built up the fact that they were trying to show in the movie how there are consequences for his actions, and that didn't make any sense to me. I didn't like that they did that, and I feel like it only detracted from the movie more. Especially considering his redemption arc in the movie doesn't really add up to a whole lot.
No, it doesn't make any sense. And in that's like the main reason why my rating is a 5, is because when we talk about him not getting any sort of repercussions, he doesn't. People just kind of look at him when he's walking in the hallway, or he's sitting down reading books that Connor Murphy has read. And these are books from when he was a kid too. So I don't know how well they'd stick with Connor Murphy to begin with. But they just look at him and they're like, ooh. And that's all you get for it. Evan, you did some terrible things. This is a year or two, right? This happened over the span of a year, and that's all that came from it.
Which is partially depicted in the musical as well, in the Broadway version. But I feel like it was Good For You, the song that they cut, that made it more effective. And in here, just kind of watching him walk down the hallways with people looking at him, and then him reading some books, doesn't play as well without kind of that idea of having that song where everyone tells him off and says, why are you such a bad person?
It makes me feel like Evan didn't really redeem himself, because I didn't like him for most of the movie because he's just lying and faking it, and then like he doesn't get any comeuppance for anything. It doesn't make me feel anything for Evan. I don't feel bad like, oh, Evan, oh no. I'm just like, oh, well, you're kind of a dick, and then you just like get forgiven for all this. Like, no, that's not fair.
Yeah.
Like what? No. And so yeah, no, it's a 5 for me. I appreciate. I was originally gonna have it way higher because I can appreciate like the original writing that went into the musical and everything.
Yeah.
But if it's just like basing it off the movie, oh my god, like it makes no sense.
Yeah. So next is H for heart. Some movies revel in their own bad intent. We watch movies with heart to make us feel things. Does the movie compel us, inspire us, or make us think? Do we learn or grow from it, or is it forgettable or too despicable for its own good? This is where I was forgiving of the movie. I just gave it a 10. I gave it a perfect 10 because I think, regardless of the missteps that the movie made, there's something here that just resonates with a lot of people, especially a lot of younger people that are struggling with a lot of different things. And I think that it can be really redeeming to a lot of people that need to hear this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so even though I feel like the movie is the less effective way of hearing these songs or knowing this story, I think that it has a lot of heart in it, and it's important for a lot of people to be able to hear it.
Yeah, no, I can understand that. I gave it an 8 because like I do really appreciate the heart behind it and like the message that they're trying to get forth, and I can totally see how this could work so well in like a musical theater sense. Yeah. But here, like it just doesn't very much, and it does take it away from me a little bit. It does feel, and also knowing like how people were talking, like the people in the film were talking about it leading up to it, and like handling the criticism. That also makes me feel like a little bit like less heart and more ego went into it. Than it did the musical. Yeah. And so that brought it down. The
movie is very sad. And that's the main thing. It's not about like, the resonance of the story or about, how effective this can be for young people that need it. The big thing that I heard leading up to it, and we went to a special showing where there was like a live Q&A, and everything that everybody was saying was how sad it was, how much you're going to cry, how bad you're going to feel the whole time. And I burned out on that so bad. And like, part of it was, the fault of the cast members, but even more than that was like the Q&A. Like the person leading the Q&A kept asking these questions from different social media platforms, and all the questions that she was asking were all about that. There were no like technical questions or questions about like, fun moments behind the scenes or anything like that. Like all of the questions were, which moment made you cry the most? Which song like hurts your heart the most? It's like, it's all, even all these songs, it's like, it's very much directed at, how sad were you? How much did you cry? And all of their answers were, this was the song that broke me. This is the one that made me cry a lot. And it's like, okay, we get it. But also like literally anything else right now. Just tell me something. Don't just tell me how you cried and how this song made you cry. And that song, whenever the actor sang this song, I was behind the camera just bawling my eyes out. Like, come on. There's more to it than just you feeling bad for 2 hours.
I didn't ask for you guys to be a bunch of wusses, all right? I want to know about the movie.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I know you're saying it jokingly, but it kind of got to that point where it's like, there's got to be more to it than just the movie making you feel sad forever.
Yeah. And, like, I feel like at least certain parts of the musical that I have heard, I haven't seen the whole thing, but I've heard bits of it from Greer, and when I have, there's like, it feels like there's more comedy in it than is in the film, and that kind of like, it's like a fun contrast and like brings a little more of an air of lightheartedness that I enjoy, and that came through in like one of the songs, but after that, like not at all, and that's a little
I mean, it's not a comedy. It's not like, comedy throughout, but there are more moments within the musical that give you those like moments of levity that bring you back from these kind of sad moments than they wanted to portray in the movie. In the movie, they wanted it to be very sad. Yeah.
Boy, did they do it.
Yes. Do you have any more to add about Heart?
No.
Next up is A for acting. this category covers the performances by the cast members. And for this, I gave it a 7. I feel like there was a lot of tonal dissonance here that bugged me. I feel like for every good performance, there was also... I shouldn't say that. I'm not going to say what I was going to say.
There was also a Ben Platt.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say, but I don't want to say that because I don't want you to think that Ben Platt's performance was bad.
Yeah.
Ben Platt comes from a very different background. Ben Platt was performing Evan Hansen the way he performed Evan Hansen on Broadway.
Yeah.
There was a lot of very dramatic acting and a lot of very enthusiastic gestures.
Yeah.
It's overacting, but it's overacting in a way that's effective on a Broadway stage where you need that to show people.
Yeah.
For a movie, I think that the subtle moments can be just as effective. And I think that the acting from people like Caitlin Dever and Julianne Moore and Amy Adams were more effective to me than Ben Platt's in this format. That's not to take anything away from Ben Platt's performance. He gave it everything.
Yeah,
but I think sometimes that was a little bit to his detriment because he's giving 100% and diving completely into this in a dramatic way that nobody else is. When he is absolutely, you know, like he's like bawling his eyes out and screaming his lines, and he is completely choked up with tears rolling, and everyone else around him feels like they're saying, bro, like, we're
Chill.
making a film, like, bring it down a couple notches, you know? And so I feel like either other people needed to bring it up a notch and kind of like match his energy, or he needed to bring it down a little bit, because it felt like he was in a different production of Evan Hansen than everybody else.
Yeah. I kind of wish they did, like, all play with the more, like, melodramatic kind of, like...
Yeah.
Well, it feels melodramatic because of how, like, you know, it was just him doing it. But, I wish everyone else kind of got into that, like, big bombastic style of acting. Because, like, I really enjoyed it with him. I thought that he was doing a really good job.
He did.
I also
He did
gave it a
excellent.
7, by the way. So, yeah, like, I think that he did a really great job and, like, you know, got through his performance, like, everything that you would need from him. And then some with how much he was putting behind it. But then, like, you do also notice it very much, especially in those moments when it's Connor Murphy's family.
Yeah.
And they're all, like, so normal. And then you have Ben Platt. He's like, ah, like screaming and crying.
And they're all just kind of calmly sitting at the table. Like, Dad's kind of slightly frowning at him and stuff. And it's
Amy
like,
Adams just got, like, little red eyes.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that's, like, those moments, you know, a little cartoonish. And then you have moments where, like, when Connor Murphy yells at him, he's sitting there, like shaking and stuff. It's that... Come on, like that's I'm like, all right, chill. Like, you don't need to freak out that much, Ben.
Yeah.
But like overall, I thought it was solid. I thought that Amy Adams at first wasn't really enjoying her role, but then she kind of like noticed that she was living. She was very much playing up the kind of like housewife dynamic and all that, and I thought that she did a good job in that sense.
Housewife dynamic and also mother in denial.
Yeah, that too. Yeah. But I thought that she was good. Julianne Moore, I think, kind of stole the show for me.
Yeah.
And most of it, I think that she got through like a good level of like heartache and like just wanting to do good for her family.
Yeah.
But, you know, not being able to. I loved her in it.
Yeah. Next is P for production design. Do the sets and costumes fit the genre and time period? Does makeup portray the situation? Or does the beaten down hero still look perfectly coiffed while lying in the dirt? This, I guess it's the opposite effect. Instead of him looking perfectly coiffed while lying in the dirt, he looked really awful regardless of everything. I mean, you know, I think they can only do so much with him. And I understand his character. Whenever he was on Broadway, he lost so much weight, like to an unhealthy level, and took this character to kind of like an obsessive level, to the detriment of his own health. And he got back into that mindset and back into that character. But my understanding is they also even used some prosthetics to make him look a little bit more drawn, which I didn't realize at first. I read that in an article later on, And after the fact, I was like, okay, yeah, I guess I can see it. Like thinking back on the character, I could see how they probably added something to him. But I feel like they almost did too much.
Yeah, for sure. What'd you give the score, by the way?
Oh, I'm sorry. For production design, I give it a 3. I feel like, especially with him, it was not only not effective, but it almost made it worse than it would have been if they had just kind of let him be a little bit more him. And also, I feel like everything was just so stock standard. They walk into a house and it is human person house. You know, they walk into the bedrooms and it's teenager bedroom.
The whole thing I was thinking whenever I saw the school was that it looked like a High School Musical set.
Yeah,
that's all it was.
I described it to Haven like that. I'm like, it feels like a really like kind of like grown up, over dramatic version of High School Musical.
Yeah.
And you know, like even Evan himself, you know, he walks into his room and there's like Ben Folds posters on the walls and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, but why? Was there's nothing in the musical, regardless of the version you're watching, about him being a fan of Ben Folds. They just thought, oh, this is a teenager's room. They probably listen to Ben Folds. And put some posters on the wall so that it wasn't an empty wall. And it just, like, none of it looked right.
I gave it a 4.
Okay.
No, Ben Platt looked constantly sweaty and tired in this movie, and oh my god, it's so blaringly obvious that he's like almost a 30-year-old playing like a 17-year-old. And that did not go over well for me at all. Seeing him in the school walking around, it's like this is clearly like a 30-year-old student in here. No wonder why you don't really have a lot of friends. Like, no wonder that you're not getting like a ton of friends in here. You're 30, Ben. You're almost 30. You shouldn't be hanging out in a high school. And that's what it feels like. It feels like, and basically everything that you said about the production design and all that with the sets and everything is exactly the same that I was thinking. Everything just looks so ordinary, so boring, uninspired. Like nothing was really put into that thought outside of Ben Platt's look. And the look, but it's not a look. It's not a good look. No. 4 feels fair to me. In lower, I can completely understand.
M is for marketing. Many movies give away too much or not enough in trailers, use poor music choices, or just don't do enough marketing to get people excited for the film. Were we excited to see the film, and why or why not? I gave it a 7, but I think part of that was just because of my preconceived idea of what Evan Hansen was. I'm not sure that if I wasn't already so into the music and the Broadway version, if I would have been as excited, because the trailers and things that I saw didn't really give me a whole lot of context. They showed that there were some songs and things, but I think it relies on knowing the plot and stuff already. The trailer is that same trailer of just the blue shirt and the broken arm that you get everywhere else. And, you know, I think the trailers even say, you know, the movie version of the smash hit Broadway musical or something like that. But if you didn't know what it was already about, or you didn't already know the music, you wouldn't really have a whole lot to go on. So I gave it a 7, but I think part of that is personal because I had my own hype knowing that the movie was being made.
So I gave it a 4.
Okay.
Because I had heard about it, heard plenty about it. I've heard a few of the songs. And it sounds like a really good, interesting idea, but not having seen the musical already, didn't put me into like, oh my god, yes, kind of mood. And then like seeing the trailers and all that, it's like, well, this looks like a super melodramatic, high school setting musical for teens that I'm not going to be too crazy about. And which that turns out to be basically what it was. The posters and all that. Posters were fine. I enjoy them for the most part. I think they would definitely work better for a musical. Like I love the poster for like the musical where it's just like the shirt and the arm and all that. That's a cool look. But then like you get the one, this one, that like, it's fine. Like it kind of it gives you what you want. You see Ben Platt,
Yeah.
you see the title, that's it. It's a little boring.
Yeah.
And trailers, again, super melodramatic. It's not something I'd be like super into. So four seems fine to me.
Yeah. Next is audio. A for audio. The category covers orchestration and song choices and whether they enhance or elevate the film. For this, I gave it an 8. I think if it had just been based purely on the music, I could have given it a 10. But the audio was mixed, really weird.
Yeah.
And I actually meant to talk to you about this beforehand to make sure it wasn't just like our showing. But there were times where like the stereo didn't quite work, or like some of the voices sounded muffled, or some of the songs sounded like they weren't like the audio mixing of the voices. It was like they were supposed to be all singing in harmony, but there was one voice that was clearly coming through way louder than the others and things like that. And I'm like, this just seems like a weird kind of amateur mistake, considering this is like a big budget adaptation of a musical. They've got so much context and so much like source material already to work with. They know like exactly what the songs should sound like and everything. And it's not like they did it on purpose. They didn't change the songs. The orchestration and the way that they were executed were 9 times out of 10 really similar to the way that they were, almost identical most times to the way they were originally. They didn't change up the music.
Yeah.
But the way that they mixed the voices sometimes didn't work, and sometimes it sounded like they were muffled or distant instead of like singing into the mic in the recording sessions or something. And so I gave it an 8 for that because it annoyed me, but I also wasn't sure if that was maybe just like maybe we got a bad source. Maybe it was like the speakers at the theater were messing up or something.
Yeah, I also gave it an 8 because like again the songs are amazing, great, really good songs. But no, I had the same problem. And
okay, so that wasn't just us.
and I legit was thinking like, no, it's got to be something with the theater. Like, there's no way.
We did the exact same thing.
I was like, there's no way this would be like an actual problem with the movie. They'd notice this in like the months of editing that they're going to be doing.
Considering it's a big budget adaptation of a Broadway musical, where music is the most important aspect of the musical.
Yeah, no, especially at the end in the final song, like there was one specific moment where things got like super muffled, and I was like,
yeah,
I was like, what's happening?
Yeah,
it was weird, but no, apparently that's just like I don't know. Maybe we saw it in the exact same theater with the exact same problems with the stereos, but like it was bad. And I was like, what the hell?
Maybe they were just having trouble focusing on their audio mix because they were so sad when they were filming it.
That's true. They probably couldn't hear very well over the tears.
Yeah, just over all of the sad that was happening, they were having trouble like just focusing on it. And
it's super sad. I cried the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's really nothing else to say about
crying
the movie
right now.
except how sad you feel just thinking about it.
Oh yeah. Wait, let's save that for reflections, okay? About how sad we get, and when we're talking about like how
I don't want to think about it too much. I'm just gonna cry.
Well, Tyler, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 more categories. You better start crying.
Okay.
For some reason, I thought you were gonna say woof. I don't know why. But yeah, no, 8 is fine. Like there wasn't like a ton of audio problems outside of the weird muffling thing, and the songs were great. And so I guess 8. That's like, but then you give more of that leeway towards just the musical and how well written and composed these songs are.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's definitely certain songs that are like more lackluster than others, and I wouldn't be surprised if those were the songs that they added that weren't in the original musical.
Yeah.
But I can't really tell off the top of my head, but still fantastic music for the most part.
Yeah. All right, so next is S for shooting. This is the cinematographer's job. Is it eye-catching? What color palette do they use? And is there a reason they use it to enhance the movie? Does the camera work enhance the scenes and make them unique? This I gave a perfect middle-of-the-road 5 because it did what it had to do to move the plot along and nothing more. The Broadway version of the musical was very minimal, and they used that to kind of create some abstract moments that made it overwhelming. During You Will Be Found, in the movie, they kind of get the point across that, they're sharing this across social media. Everybody loves it. But in the Broadway version, there's kind of this idea of like all these, it's a spotlight on him and there's all these screens lit up behind him, and you kind of get this sense of the scale of how fast and how wide it's spreading.
Yeah.
But there's also kind of this like overwhelming, like looming issue. You know, you can already feel kind of where the plot is moving, and how kind of that nerve-wracking, scared aspect of they're spreading this message and I'm a fraud, you know, while also it being like really hopeful and showing how quickly it is spreading. And I feel like you never capture that in this kind of grounded world that they've created in the movie instead. Yeah. Using some of those abstract sets in the Broadway show made it more effective for me. Just like the over dramaticism of Broadway makes the acting better for me on Broadway rather than in a movie. Yeah. And so it all, there's no grandeur to it really, you know? Like when it comes down to it, it all just feels very, very normal, very soap opera in this version of it. Yeah, it does.
Yeah, I also gave it a 5 actually. Okay. Because like you don't get any interesting shots, interesting framing really. There's one moment, it's when Ben Platt is telling Amy Adams and the whole Murphy family that he's the one that wrote the letter and all that and everything. And that's when it was like kind of that dichotomy between when they're like across the table from each other and Amy Adams is on one end and then Ben Platt's on the other, and you get like a nice like depth of field and all that in there. And I think that's shot pretty well there, but that's the only standout moment I could think in the entire film. Everything else super ordinary.
And there it works. You have that dichotomy, but you have to also think that's basically the entire movie. Like, you know, as far as another thing that's kind of this cardinal sin of like making a big budget musical, and to an extent they do this in the Broadway version as well. I can't really fault the movie for taking this route, but so much of it is just watching them stand around. They're like standing on opposite sides of a table singing at each other, or they're standing in a living room singing at each other, or they're standing in a school hallway singing at each other. And
I was going to go into that more with directing. Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, I guess I mean it ties in there. But yeah, there's not a lot to it. And so beyond the whole like comparing drugs sequence, the single worst moment for me that I just hated it. It felt so amateur and so like teenage soap opera to me, was the moment where it's in Requiem, which is the moment where Connor's family,
Is it the fades?
Not even the fades. It's the moment where they're singing about, you know, not mourning Connor, and then his sister decides to get in a car and take her hands off the wheels and drive down the road because she's super sad, because you know everybody in this musical is so sad. Yeah. And so her way of not mourning and coping is to just drive recklessly for a little bit while she sings really intensely. Yeah. And it's just like, why are we so doing melodramatic? This? Yeah. Again, but not in a good way. No. It all just, like I said, it all feels very like teenage soap opera. Like if I were like 13, I'd be like, wow, this is raw. This is a powerful moment. But watching it, I was like, okay.
Like, all right, calm down.
This is what we're doing.
Yeah. No, it's one of the most, if not the most melodramatic thing I've seen in a long time. Yeah. And that kind of leads into directing a little bit. You want to read the directing part?
D for directing. Perhaps one of the most important elements, the director makes sure the movie comes together. Is it effective at conveying a tone, message, and visuals that the director intended? Can you identify them by their good or bad habits when filmmaking? I mean, yeah. It was very effective at conveying a tone of everybody's so sad. Everybody's sad all the time because this movie's sad. Yeah. I give it a 5 because Steven Chbosky, you can't identify him. He makes cookie cutter sad teenager movies. You know, it's like this. I mean, it fits right in. You could make a trilogy with Perks of Being a Wallflower and Wonder. Yeah, this fits right into his style and his filmmaking. This is definitely one of his movies.
Definitely. I gave it a 4 because What I don't like the stylistic choices that he did with a lot of them.
Yeah.
I did not like how they conveyed everyone coming together and like being like, oh, Connor Murphy with like the video and all that of Ben Platt with his speech. I thought that was like super generic and like a Lifetime movie. Oh God, I hated that.
Which is very similar to the way it's done in the Broadway version.
But like I don't like not in that way. I mean like the way that it's presented in the edit, I guess. You have like all the screens flying by and you have like people singing on them and everything and cutting through all the different all the different people being like, guys, listen, we need to talk about Connor Murphy, all right? Like it's because if it was like in the musical way, I would like it so much more.
Which again, I think it kind of being a little bit more abstract kind of helps it, because like I said, it's almost like this overwhelming thing. It's you see Evan on stage with the spotlight and stuff, but it's just him, and you see this massive, like it's all around him and behind him, and it becomes like almost this like overwhelming thing for him, where you see kind of the good and the bad at once. And you know, you hear the voices saying we can't stop talking about this video and stuff like that, but the way it's approached in the movie does make it feel a little bit more like, I guess, pop music video where you see like the other people joining in and stuff.
Like, I don't know, I hated it. I didn't like how in 90% of the music scenes outside of Sincerely Me, which I thought was like really well done. I loved how they did that.
Sincerely, for me personally, Sincerely Me and So Big, So Small were the standouts. Those were the two moments where I was like, this feels like a genuinely good moment in this movie. Sincerely Me is just a standout for being a lot of fun. It's a well-directed, like, big dance number with a lot of just energy. A lot going for it. And it feels like it's a really good part of a musical movie. And So Big, So Small is a really subdued moment with Julianne Moore. And I feel like she acts the heck out of it.
She does, and I wasn't expecting her to sing in it.
And I feel like those were the two moments that worked really well for me as I was watching it.
I agree. I love Sincerely Me and So Big, So Small. Those were great. But in most of the musical scenes, they're just standing around, like you were saying earlier, and just singing to each other. Or it's just like Ben Platt singing. And I'm like, I want something more in this than just watching them sing. You're not giving me anything visually interesting to go along with it.
It's a little bit tough because, you know, like I said, to an extent, that's kind of how it is in the musical version too. But there's whenever you're hinging this movie on, you know, being a big budget movie musical, I feel like there needs to be more. Whether it even be like a better montage or whether they like come together and move together more. You know, the thing that kind of comes to mind, and I hope I don't make people mad by saying this, but some of the moments from La La Land, where it's like, it doesn't have to be super complicated, you know, even if it's just them kind of like dancing together or something, instead of just standing, like staring from across a table or something. I feel like would have helped.
Like when Sincerely Me did come on, I got like way more energized. I was like, oh, this is kind of awesome.
This is where it starts coming together and feeling like an
actual musical. But no, it just felt like you were saying, a soap opera with singing. And I don't like how he handled Ben or Evan Hansen as a character in general. I feel like Ben Platt did a good job performing it. And it was Evan Hansen himself is inherently well written because of the musical. But the way that he decided to show is like, you know, arc, where like it feels like Evan Hansen is completely like profiting off of this sad kid's suicide and then just not getting any sense of repercussions afterwards. Is like makes him so unlikable. And I feel like that's an inherent thing that you have to figure out when you're directing and putting forth like these characters onto the screen. And I think that's even Chbosky
Yeah.
didn't do that very well at all. I was not a fan of his directing in this film.
Yeah. But with all that said, it was very sad.
Oh my god.
It's so sad.
I've never seen a sadder movie.
It's it's pretty sad.
Okay.
Next is E for editing. Does the movie have a visual rhythm? Does it flow well, keep the viewer engaged, and scrub bad performances? Which angles do they decide to use when cutting between cameras? For this, I was a little bit more generous. I gave it a 7 because of some of the bigger moments that I feel like were done well. Like Sincerely Me.
Yeah.
I feel like the blending of all the different environments and the way that they're kind of like dancing through these different scenes worked really well. Worked in its favor. Mm-hmm. Same with kind of like the color palette and the subdued performance of So Big, So Small. I feel like that worked really well. Yeah. But it's like you were saying, there were also the moments where there's like the fade cuts in Requiem or the flash cuts in Waving Through a Window. That's like, it felt unnecessary and also kind of breaks the immersion a little bit.
Yeah.
But I feel like a lot of it at least worked fine, you know? Instead of going middle of the road, I elevated it a little bit.
Yeah, I gave it a 3.
Okay.
I did not like the editing at all in this movie. Then again, like I was already talking about before, how I don't like the editing in the moments, like in the moment when they're all coming together and all that. I don't like that style at all. It feels very baity to me, and I'm not a fan. There's also the cuts in those songs that you were talking about before, with the Looking Out a Window and the other one, the fading one with Requiem. Yeah, did not like those fades, did not like the flash cuts, didn't like the cuts, the quick jump cuts when he'd be like tap, 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 and all that.
Which is really annoying because Requiem should be one of the most effective songs in this version of the musical.
It didn't affect me at all.
And it just wasn't done very well.
No.
It wasn't handled very well.
No,
and
it was so boring.
That was one of the moments that everybody talked about. That was one of the super sad moments that everybody was like, Requiem is super sad. Requiem made me cry so much. Requiem broke me. And I'm like... But, you know, did you also see it through the lens? Like maybe behind the scenes when you were watching them actually perform it, but like, did you actually watch the movie? Because the version I saw... It's
not effective at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, Requiem was awful. I don't know if I call it awful. It wasn't well paced in the scheme of the film. That's another thing, like some of the songs like in the pacing did really like slow down a lot.
Yeah.
Like with Requiem, So Big, So Small felt like it was a lot slower. There was a great song and a great moment. It felt like with the bits around it, it didn't work at all. Because it felt like you like quickly caught up to this random moment where Ben Platt's mom is in there and they have like the breakdown and they go into the next moment where Ben Platt is like admitting like the letters all day and all that. Like it just, all the bits around it move so quickly, yet this slows down so much.
Yeah.
And that really drags it.
And it's because they cut out Good For You.
Yeah.
That's where they should have had this big blow up where everybody realizes his lies and his deceit and gets mad at him. And instead of that happening, there's a little throwaway scene where she stomps out of the Murphy's house and, you know, calls Evan out, but then they go home and he cries and says, I tried to commit suicide, and she's like, oh, it's okay, baby, and sings to him and everything's fine.
Yeah. It was a very weirdly put together moment.
Yeah.
No, I'm not a fan of the editing, and I guess a lot of that is also just like natural taste for me, but yeah, 3.
Yeah.
No thanks.
Yeah. And finally, R is for reflection. The most subjective of our categories, this is a simple gauge of how much we enjoyed the film because of or despite the rankings we gave in other categories. With the above average performances of Sincerely Me and So Big, So Small, I gave it a 6.
That seems fair. I gave it a 5.
Okay.
You know, is very middle of the road for me.
Yeah.
Like I wanted to enjoy it a lot more, but I couldn't get over some of those humps.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, the entire film kind of felt like one big hump to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, five is fair. My overall score was a 53.
Okay.
So again, very middle of the road.
Yeah.
Kind of. I was thinking it might be like in the 60s when I was actually like, watching it, and then once I started to think about it and all that, I was putting it together. I was like, man, no, this is like not. This is not coming out to be that. It's really not.
No, so my final score came out to be a 64. So a little bit higher, but still, I think we're pretty in line with how we felt about a lot of it.
Yeah. You said a lot of the things that I was thinking with much of the issues I had.
Yeah.
But
yeah, with that said, that was our breakdown of Dear Evan Hansen. Next up, we have our review of Birds of Paradise.
Yes.
Which
this was the movie I recommended.
Yes, this was your recommended movie. You had mentioned it to me, like a couple months ago, and showed me the trailer.
Maybe a month at most.
And showed me the trailer, and then I pretty much immediately forgot about it. And then you reminded me about it a couple of times, and I was like, oh yeah, that was that like ballet movie you showed me the trailer for a while back. And then you said that you saw it, and I was like, oh yeah, I guess that's out now. And I watched it like late last night so that I could write the review. But more than that, for this one, I did a blind WAP master on it.
Yeah.
So you told me all about this movie after you watched it, and I gave tentative ratings based on what you told me about what I thought I would feel about this movie.
Yeah.
And then I went and watched it and made a revised WAP master based on how I actually felt about this movie. So I've got both of those as we go through the list.
Okay. All right, so let's get into it then.
All right.
Yeah.
Do you want to start with this one, or do you want me to?
Sure. For writing, I gave it a 5.
Okay.
Very much so like Dear Evan Hansen. A lot of it felt a little melodramatic and like a little forced in a way. I didn't like how some of the vignettes were written for changing of scenes and scenarios and all that. Wasn't a big fan of that, but it's still pretty standard, and I think some of the writing was solid. It got through like a bit of tension that you'd want in the film.
Yeah.
And so I enjoyed the writing to an extent, but not enough to get over an average rating.
Yeah. So before I watched the movie, I gave it a 6 with a little note that said it sounds like it might be derivative or kind of boring. And after I watched it, I gave it a 5, and I made a note that said it is derivative and sometimes boring.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. I think I described it to you as it sounds like someone watched Black Swan and they were like, I wouldn't make that movie.
Yeah. It seems like kind of a 20-something amateur in college was like, they watched Black Swan and thought it was super cool and was like, I could totally do that,
but more
do it
modern.
Better. Yeah. And they did, and it wasn't better.
No.
So there are a lot of parallels to Black Swan. There are also,
but not as much as I thought there would be.
No, there are ironically, I feel like almost more parallels to Evan Hansen.
I think so. Yeah.
With like the themes of suicide,
alienation,
and coping. Yeah. There were a lot of themes in this movie where I was like, wow, this reminds me of that other movie we're reviewing this week. So moving forward into Heart.
So for Heart, I gave it a 6. It felt like, I forgot to switch scene. It felt like, what was her name? Let me go to the director here. Sarah Adina Smith cared about what she was making and had, like, a good passion for what she wanted and everything in the art form.
Yeah.
It also felt like the actors and everyone cared about it, but it didn't feel like it hit any real emotional beats.
Yeah.
At all. Like any specific feeling. It felt like it was trying to like dodge around multiple different feelings of like alienation or not being good enough and like wanting a relationship but not being able to achieve that.
Yeah.
And wanting an overall like a goal. But it doesn't stick to any specific specific feeling, and that bouncing around definitely takes away from the heart for me.
Yeah.
So 6 is fair to me.
So before I watched it, I gave it a 2 based on what you were telling me about it.
Yeah.
After I watched it, I gave it a 2.
Wow.
I feel like I didn't...
derivative it was?
Not even the derivative nature. I feel like, you know, at least for me, I go into a movie looking for someone to root for, and I feel like our protagonist by the end had kind of turned into our villain.
Yeah.
She was self-inflicting all of this agony on herself, alienated herself from the only friend she had, turned herself into kind of a villain, even like with the dance instructor at the end.
Yeah.
And never really finds her happiness. And the one that we're supposed to like suspect the whole time ends up kind of being a sympathetic character who ends up finding her happiness at the end. But
it's
also
a weird bait and switch.
Yeah. But also even with that, the character was so flawed, and there's all these like what ifs. Like, you know, is she in like an incestual relationship? And is she going to commit suicide? And there's like all these weird what ifs with that character too, where it's like, I don't know if I really root for her or like her either. And I had trouble like really finding a lot of like any sort of moral compass to follow in the movie to make me feel for them.
Yeah.
And so I didn't really, I didn't feel much for any of the characters, and I didn't get a whole lot out of it.
There's not really any characters behind this movie to begin with, really.
Yeah.
I mean, like, you have the main girl who is Diana Silvers, who is like, you know, a small town country girl going into the big city ballet. She does, you know, it feels like at first she's got a solid amount of heart.
Yeah.
But then, like you were saying, as it goes along, it just falls apart there.
Yeah.
And you start to not like her as much. But I also understand why it's getting to that, and why it's like she's feeling this competitive nature and wanting these things and all that. But you don't really get a redemption for her either.
Yeah.
Is the thing. Also, like Dear Evan Hansen, where it doesn't feel like he earned his redemption. She didn't get one really, period, in the film.
Yeah. Even worse than Evan Hansen, I feel like, was kind of this character who devolves into her own worst habits and behaviors. Yeah. And then at the end, she's a successful ballet dancer who's not like happy, but got everything she wanted.
Yeah. Just
by being a bad person.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
I felt a little bit of heart in it, but I can definitely see why other people would not have any like attachment to any characters. I don't really have an attachment to any of the characters either.
And again, talking about like the parallels to Black Swan, this is very much like the poor man's Black Swan, you know?
Yeah.
Because that same kind of relationship and dichotomy in Black Swan, where you have this girl who's like striving for perfection and striving to be the lead and all this.
She's like the innocent, nice girl.
Yeah. And then you have the friend that comes in and kind of like leads her into this more, you know, like, come be yourself and let loose your, you know, your inner demons or whatever. You know, this more carefree character comes in and like kind of changes her as the story goes along. But in Black Swan, there's so much nuance there, and there's so much about like the duality of the characters that goes into it. And in here, it's just so basic. In Birds of Paradise, it's a face value relationship, and in Black Swan, there's a lot more to it than that.
Yeah. In like, I don't know, you have like a lot of those parallels too with the kind of Felipe guy who's like a lot like Thomas in Black Swan, where like, you know, it's a dance instructor and all that. I think they try and like make it different, whereas in Black Swan she feels baited and like kind of like controlled by her dancing instructor, and then here she goes to Felipe to try and like get more tips and be helped, and then she just ends up like sleeping with him. And I feel like they're trying to be like, see, it's not like Black Swan, you know, kind of thing, but it's still a lot like Black Swan. Like you're pulling a lot of the same punches there.
So for acting, I'll let you go first for acting.
Okay. Yeah. Acting, I gave it a 6. I was gonna give it a 5, but then like there were certain performances, mainly by Christine Forsyth, where I think she did like a really good job in the scene where she was explaining to Diana Silvers why her mom treats her the certain way and like what happened with her brother and all that. I thought that she gave a good performance there, but I think everyone else is very mid for most of it, and it doesn't really take a ton away from me, but it doesn't add anything or invest me in any of these characters either. Yeah, and that's definitely to the detriment of the film.
So before I saw it, I gave it a 5. After I watched it, I also gave it a 6. And I was going to say more or less exactly the same thing. The only other thing I was going to add was I have I've kind of been comparing it a lot to Black Swan and Dear Evan Hansen, and where Black Swan, these characters are very nuanced, and Natalie Portman gives kind of this like masterpiece performance of these like very small gestures that add up to this very unique character. And in Dear Evan Hansen, Ben Platt has this like very overdramatic, like go for broke style of acting, and Kristen Forsyth and Diana Silvers are both just kind of right in the middle. It's not subtle and nuanced, and it's not overdramatic, but that also means it never really goes anywhere. They always just kind of stuck here.
Yeah,
just being fine. Yeah.
No one really adds anything to the film. Yeah. Like, through the entire thing, no one's like... It feels like no one's putting a lot of passion into it. Yeah. And that's like, it's a ballet movie. You think you'd want passion in the ballet movie.
Exactly. So next up is P for production design.
So I gave the production design a 6 again. It helps itself a lot with the setting that it has, where it has like all these opulent, really pretty buildings that it can shoot in, but it doesn't shoot in them a ton. Then you have sets like the Jungle Club, where it's just a bunch of leaves and dark colors and all that. It's super boring. And that's that's about it. The dancing studio is a dancing studio. The little loft they stay in is a little loft. You don't get much more from the production design. The characters don't look like really worn or anything. Even when she's starting to take drugs, you don't really notice like a difference in her demeanor or anything. She still seems exactly the same. And in that definitely it didn't do much. Like it felt kind of cheap, really, for a good portion of it, until you get to those like big moments where they're like going to all the things. But even in like the small stage that they were at, when they were all dancing to see who would like get the scholarship or like get the job in the company, that felt like what kind of stage is that? That's stupid. Why would you do that there? Yep. I didn't like that spot, that set at all. But again, like the big beautiful buildings, those are always like those are always going to be nice.
So before I watched it, I gave it a 6. After I watched it, I bumped it up 1 point to a 7 for more or less the exact same reasons. Yeah. I thought there were certain scenes where I was like, wow, this is really pretty. This was like a really good location. Because I don't know what the budget was like or anything for this movie, but I was like, this looks like really good. But everything else is very generic. Yeah. The girls look like dancers, and the rooms look like rooms, and so there's not a lot to make it stand out except for those unfortunately underutilized like really pretty locations.
Yeah. It's a very standard kind of look that you would expect. Yeah. And then like in the jungle, I don't like the jungle set at all. And in those little scenes where they're like kind of interpretive dancing and they're on like the worm drug or whatever. Yeah. I don't like the little black void that they're in and all that with all the glitter everywhere. I've
got a thing to say about that, but I was gonna wait until later.
Yeah, okay, we can wait till later.
More toward editing. Yeah. I had something I was gonna say about that.
But so marketing, I give marketing a 6. Okay. marketing, it got me like interested in it.
Yeah.
At least I was excited to see like something at least different being out. But that was about it. Not a whole lot else put into it.
Yeah.
Really.
For marketing, before I watched it, I gave it a 5. After I watched it, I gave it a 4. For pretty much what I was saying earlier, I knew it existed because you told me to watch the trailer, and I did, and then pretty much immediately forgot about it. So that tells you how much of an impact it made. And then even after you described it to me a couple more times, I was like, oh yeah, that's that movie you told me to watch. Yeah. And then after watching it, I felt like the trailers were almost more annoying because rewatching the trailer, it at least made it look like kind of a ballet thriller, and the movie isn't even good at doing that.
Yeah, no, it's not.
So I feel like the marketing was not just not that good, but also not really indicative of the movie we got.
Yeah, it was a little. It got me interested. Is like what I think, and I like the posters, and the trailer was edited pretty well. Whoever they got editing trailers is doing a great job now, for the most part, at least. But yeah, no, like I was at least like somewhat interested in what was going to come out of this. Yeah. But that's about all I could say. Like being somewhat interested. Yeah. It's very mid. This is a very mid week, you know?
Yep. So next up is audio.
Yeah, so for the audio, I gave it a 4. Okay. Because I did not like the song choices they did for a lot of the dance sequences. It felt really weird to have them dancing point ballet and then have like pop playing in the background. Yeah. That felt weird. And in some of the I didn't like the music playing for a lot of like the tripping drug sequences and all that. Wasn't a fan of those. That's about it though. Like you don't have like a whole lot of audio issues. Everything else is very standard, but the music choices and selections that they made are so baffling in a way that that really brings it down for me. It's like why in a movie about like high art ballet are you playing like something that sounds like early Carly Rae Jepsen? Like that's not indicative of like what you're trying to show on screen. Yeah.
Which was the most disappointing part of this movie for me. So before I watched it, I gave it a 9.
Oh my god.
Because I'm thinking, ballet thriller, yeah. And then I watched it and I gave it a 5. Because I was like, I mean, they use some conventional music for some of the moments where they're practicing and stuff like that, and that's all fine and stuff. And some of this, some of the just the incidental sound design is fine. Again, it's all very middle of the road. Yeah. But it annoyed me. So, it's the same thing. I don't know what the budget was. I don't know what they had to do as far as like licensing and, things like that. Yeah. But it got to a point, there were a couple of times where it delved almost into like EDM pop or something like that. Like. And I hated it. There was that weird like tonal dissonance that just what you're seeing and what you're hearing feel like they should be two different things in two different movies.
No, and especially after seeing something like Black Swan, when like it's got such beautiful music in it.
Yeah, and, how it can be.
Yeah, and, like it's such general thing that ballet music is always so bombastic yet like subtle and beautiful and can convey all the emotions that you can so you don't even need words. But instead you put forth this EDM pop music. Yeah. And no, it's a weird stylistic choice that I guess we'll bring up more in the directing part. But that's a 4. Shooting, though, I gave it an 8. I enjoyed how this film was shot. It was shot very differently from Black Swan, which I liked a lot, that they like went around and changed that up. I like the lighting in the film very much. I like that kind of like moodier lighting you get when you're in the hallway for like the dorms of the ballet studio and everything. But when it comes to the ballet scenes themselves, I feel like they do use like a little bit too many cuts in that, trying to cut around like the actual dancing. But I understand why they would do that, so yeah, I'm not like upset with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's an 8. It's a pretty well shot film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I said more or less the exact same thing. Before I watched it, I gave it an 8. After watching it, I gave it a 9.
Yeah.
I thought it was frequently pretty beautiful. I liked the locations they used, and I liked how unique it felt. Sometimes it didn't work, but those were few and far between. I thought it was almost like it was deceptive, because based on the cinematography, it felt like I was watching a better movie than I actually was.
Yeah, it gave you a bit of a grander scale for a lot of the film, which that definitely that ended well to the film. I thought like the shooting was probably, I think it is like the highest part of the film for me. It was how it was shot. Yeah,
no, it definitely was.
But okay, so let's go on to directing then.
Yes.
Directing, I gave that a 7.
Okay.
I think that Sarah Adina Smith, while I'm not a fan of her films really, I think that she has a clear vision that she wants to convey on the screen, and even if it's a bit of a mess, like this film is a bit of a mess with the tonal shifts and the different stylistic choices she goes for, but she still puts them on screen and is able to make at least a somewhat coherent film. And I think that like directing wise, when it comes to like movement and blocking in the scenes, I think she does a good job. I think she got what she wanted, and I think that she thinks that she made a really good film.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. Now, the more that I'm thinking about it, the more I'm like, I don't know if I want to give directing a 7. But it's already there, so I'm going to leave it at that. But yeah, I guess.
So this one, before I watched it, I gave it a 5. After I watched it, I gave it a 5.
Yeah.
Again, it kind of feels like it never really knows whether it wants to be a soap opera or a drama or a thriller. Again, kind of just coming back to that, like those weird tonal shifts sometimes.
Yeah.
It kind of sometimes worked, but I felt like I didn't really know what kind of movie I was supposed to be watching. And then by the end of it, I never felt like it was really resolved what I really witnessed. And I wish it had just really committed to one direction and run with that.
No, yeah. No, she did her best, I guess, is like what you can give her, if anything. Okay, so let's move on to editing. Editing, I gave it a 5. Very middle of the road. There wasn't a whole lot for me to complain about, but you know, like it's what you get. You get what you get out of the editing. Like it's standard shot, reverse shot. You don't get a whole lot of like interesting cuts or like anything that like really attaches it to the music, like how it does in a film like Black Swan.
Yeah.
And that definitely doesn't show because, you know, there's nothing to show with the editing. It's standard. It's about as middle of the road as you can get.
So before I watched the movie, I gave it a 6. After I watched it, I gave it a 6. I was going to go completely middle of the road and give it a 5. But there was one moment that, and I don't know if it was on purpose or not, but there was one moment in this movie that made me laugh so hard because of the way they edited it. And it was the first time they go to the club and they decide to have a dance off, and they go into like this black void, and they're having this like really kind of, you know, masterful interpretive like dance off, and the last person standing wins.
Yeah.
And then halfway through it, it's like a really jarring, like just clean cut to them standing in the middle of the club, but they're just kind of like jumping up and down because they're like,
that's right.
They're super high, and they're both, neither one of them is actually dancing. They just think that they're dancing really good, and it turns out the black void is just them dancing in their heads.
Yeah,
but in reality, they're both just standing across from each other, like, I'm so tired, but I can't stop dancing. And I was laughing at it, and I'm like, I don't know if that was supposed to be a moment I laughed at or not, but I thought that was the most hilarious thing. And then I started thinking about it, because I was thinking I'm going to rate it higher for that. Yeah. And so I was thinking I'd give it like a 7 or something, because I'm like, that was a really clever moment. Yeah. That was a funny cut. And then I realized something, which is, and spoiler alert if you care, I don't think either one of us are going to recommend this movie real highly.
No.
But spoiler alert, at the end of the movie, the secondary, I don't remember her name in the movie, but Kristen Forsyth,
Yeah.
her character, did I understand right that she's supposed to be working for the jungle as like a choreographer? Like
Yeah, in like the at the end, that's what she was saying.
But if they're all super high, is she doing any sort of actual choreography, or is her interpretive dance all just the way it looks like there at the beginning?
See, I don't know if like I'm confused as to what the jungle is, because like in that part you see them just going and then getting high and like doing dancing and stuff, but then at the end you see what's her name, Diana Silvers, and like the final shot is like her falling down, and it's like she looks like she's in the jungle and on a stage.
Yeah,
and I'm like, where'd the
Kristen
stage
Forsyth
come
is kind of
from?
like directing from the side
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah,
But that's what I'm saying. Like, based on their own kind of like jokey gimmick there at the beginning, where it turns out they weren't actually dancing, they were just high and thought they were dancing. Is that what's happening at the end? Is she like on drugs and thinks that she's working as a choreographer or something? Is there some sort of like weird implication there that I'm not?
I don't think that's what it is.
Okay.
I think that it's just poorly written.
Okay. I'm probably just giving it too much credit, but I was
Yeah.
watching it and I'm like, wait a minute. Like, based on their own gimmick at the beginning there, that this kind of plays weird here at the end.
Mhm.
But yeah, so I gave it a 6.
Yeah. No, I don't deny that whatsoever. It's editing. No, we already did editing. Reflection.
Yeah.
What was your reflection?
You want me to go first?
Yeah.
So before I watched it, I was thinking this will probably be like a 6 for me, you know, a little bit higher
Yeah.
than middle of the road. After I watched it, I gave it a 4.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Not even because I actively didn't enjoy it. Like I said, there were a couple moments where I'm like, okay, this is fine. It's all very middle of the road.
Yeah.
I thought some of it looked pretty. I thought that one moment where they're like doing the dance battle was kind of funny.
Yeah.
But I got nothing out of it. It felt overly long and sometimes kind of boring.
Yeah.
It never really committed to one style of film.
Yeah.
I guess it's the biggest tell for me was that whenever I felt like, okay, it's kind of reaching a climax, this is probably going to be ending soon,
Mhm.
I checked the app and it was only like halfway done, and I was like, oh my gosh,
dude.
but yeah, so at the I gave it a 4.
Yeah, man, that's I mean, wow. I gave it a 6 because
Okay.
I find the world interesting, and I find the setting of it, like in Paris and all that, pretty cool. Even though they don't show a ton of like Paris itself, I still find it like at least interesting to see.
Yeah.
You know, whereas I don't get a ton out of most of the other things, I feel like the shooting style of it really did elevate it enough, and plus that setting, like for it to like at least go over the hump of like the, you know, the midway, like just kind of average film kind of thing, is slightly above average for me.
Yeah.
But so my final score was a 59, which is funny because that's like the IMDb rating exactly now.
Really?
Yeah, it's a 5.9.
So my final blind score before seeing it was a 58.
Oh wow.
My actual final score after watching it was a 53.
Wow. Yeah, my Dear Evan Hansen score.
So yeah. So actually I got pretty close.
Yeah.
And that was fun to do. I'd be interested in doing that again. I kind of liked that like being able to go back and look at a movie after seeing it based on my own kind of like preconceived ideas of what I would think of it. Yeah. Is really interesting to me.
Yeah. Dude, yeah, it's an okay movie. That's about as it's about as okay as it gets.
It sure is all right.
Yeah, that's a movie.
That really was a movie that you could see.
Man, they put images on screen.
Man, they sure had some music in that film. But yeah, so kind of across the board, this is a very middling week.
Yeah, not a whole lot to talk about, really.
So with that said, next week, I don't know that we've set a specific movie that we said this is going to be the one we watch this week. We had gotten this week kind of anticipated, like with Evan Hansen and Birds of Paradise, but I don't know if we have something in stone yet for next week. So you guys get to be surprised with us.
Yippee.
We will also be surprised about what we see this week.
Yeah.
And our question for next week is our top 10 actors to go to complement our top 10 actresses from this week. So we hope you guys enjoyed it. And until next week,
see ya.
good time and good movies.
Yeah.
We need to have like a catchphrase that we say at the end. You sure did that, boof.
Big friend, BFG, you know?
Yeah. All right. Well, until next week, have a great week. Bye, guys.
Bye.